You didn't love them wrong. You just loved them in a way their nervous system couldn't handle. Here's what everyone gets wrong about avoidance. People assume they end up alone or with someone better, someone cooler, less emotional, less needy. And that assumption is quietly destroying people who are waiting, changing themselves, shrinking themselves, hoping that this time they'll be enough. The truth is messier and way more useful. Because avoidants do end up with someone, and it almost always falls into one of three patterns. Once you see which pattern you're in, or which one you've been trying to become, you won't be able to unsee it. Stay with me, because the third one is the trap nobody talks about, and it's more common than most people want to admit. Avoidant attachment isn't a personality quirk or just someone being independent. Researchers define it as a pattern where a person suppresses their attachment needs, not because those needs disappear, but because expressing them has felt unsafe or pointless. The key word is suppresses. The feelings are still there, buried under layers of self-sufficiency that look, from the outside, like not caring. Avoidants don't experience their withdrawal as cruelty. They experience it as self-protection. To them, pulling back isn't rejection, it's regulation. That distinction matters because it changes how you interpret their behavior. It's not personal in the way you think it is, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. When an avoidant picks a long-term partner, they're not consciously running calculations. They're just following what feels tolerable. And that feeling sorts itself into one of three patterns. Pattern 1. The low-demand partner. This is the most common long-term outcome for avoidance by a wide margin. The low-demand partner doesn't ask for much emotionally. They don't push for deep conversations, don't need constant reassurance, and aren't asking the avoidant to open up or show up differently. On the surface, this relationship looks calm. No big fights, no dramatic push-pull, just easy. And for the avoidant, easy feels like safe. No pressure means no need to withdraw. But here's what nobody says out loud. Stable isn't the same as connected. Studies on relationship satisfaction consistently show that emotional intimacy, the ability to share your inner world and feel genuinely understood, is one of the strongest predictors of long-term fulfillment. Not chemistry, intimacy. And that's exactly what this dynamic quietly starves. What makes this pattern particularly painful is that the low-demand partner often wasn't always that way. They became that way. They started asking for less because asking for more meant watching someone they loved go cold. So they adjusted. They shrank. Researchers call this self-silencing, a term coined by psychologist Dana Jack, describing exactly this pattern of suppressing your own needs to preserve a relationship. Studies link chronic self-silencing to depression, loss of identity, and resentment that builds so slowly you don't notice it until it's already everywhere. How much of yourself have you quietly put away just to keep the peace? Drop that in the comments. I think more people are living this than are willing to say it out loud. Pattern 2. The Secure But Boundaried Partner. This is the rarest outcome, but the only one where the avoidant actually grows. This partner is emotionally warm and open, but they don't chase. They don't overgive or rearrange their life to accommodate someone else's walls. They have standards, not delivered as ultimatums, but as quiet, consistent limits that communicate, I want real connection. If you can't meet me there, I won't wait forever. Avoidants carry what researchers call a fear of engulfment, a deep discomfort with feeling like their identity is being consumed by the relationship. The secure partner doesn't trigger that fear because they're not desperate or enmeshed. But they also don't enable the slow fade. The avoidant can't drift indefinitely because this person isn't anxiously waiting by the door. They have a life and a clear sense of what they're available for. Research by Mario Mikulincer and Philip Shaver, two of the most cited names in adult attachment science, confirms that avoidant patterns can shift over time. But the shift almost always comes from within the avoidant, not from their partner's behavior. What a secure partner does is create the conditions where growth becomes possible. They don't force it. They just refuse to make avoidance completely comfortable. So the avoidant either rises to meet them or loses them. This is the pattern most people try to perform. They read about secure attachment and think, I'll just act unbothered. But avoidants are finely tuned to emotional signals. They can feel the difference between someone who genuinely has standards and someone strategically pretending not to care. Genuine standards create safety. Performed detachment creates confusion. You cannot fake your way into this pattern. It only works when it's real. Pattern 3. The familiar chaos partner. This is the cycle relationship. On, off, close, distant, explosive, quiet, repeat. It runs for years with no real resolution. The familiar chaos partner is usually someone who is also avoidant or emotionally unavailable in their own way. Sometimes completely present, sometimes completely gone. The reason avoidants land in this pattern? It feels familiar. Not good, just familiar. Neither person is asking for deep intimacy, so neither person feels threatened by the absence of it. There's a strange comfort in emotional distance when distance is what you know. No one is pushing anyone to grow. No one is asking anyone to face themselves. Psychologists refer to this pull toward known dynamics as repetition compulsion, the unconscious tendency to recreate relationship patterns that feel familiar, even when those patterns cause pain. It's not logical, but it's incredibly common. These relationships rarely become stable long-term. They persist sometimes for years, but they don't build anything real. Both people tend to look back genuinely confused about what it even was, or why they stayed so long when so little was actually holding them there. Avoidants don't end up with someone cooler, less emotional, or more chill. They don't end up with the one who didn't care. They end up with the dynamic their nervous system can tolerate without being forced to look at themselves. That's the actual selection process, not attraction, not shared values, not who loved them best. Nervous system tolerance. If you've been asking, will they end up with someone better than me? You're solving the wrong problem. The question that actually shifts something is, what kind of relationship am I available for right now? Because if you've been slowly becoming the low-demand partner, shrinking, self-silencing, asking for less and less, the avoidant isn't choosing someone better than you. They're choosing a dynamic that costs them less. And those are two completely different things. If this gave you clarity, send it to someone stuck in that same push-pull cycle. They probably need to hear this more than they'd admit. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.